Year-over-year growth, year-over-year pricing, what's the forecast going forward into 2025? Florida real estate covered right now. Let's get started. I'm George. This is my incredibly talented wife, Jackie, and we cover real estate in the Florida market. Let's get going. First thing we're going to look at is a graph that shows really the entire United States. I want you to focus on Florida, how it compares to everything else. Take a look at this. So this is offered by Fast Company, and it shows the active inventory for sale and where our hotspots are. So let's take a look at the Florida market. When you're seeing all these blues over Tampa, Punta Gorda, where the arrows are pointing to, as opposed to the arrows up north, as well as in the Chicago area, you see a difference in shading. You'll notice in the Midwest and the Northeast that we have got a lot less homes on the market. Now, this strikes me as kind of unusual because we've got everybody leaving there. We covered that in a previous video. The great time to say, why don't you subscribe to the channel? That way you get all this information brought to you at least twice a month, usually about once a week. We'll bring you our current updates. But we've talked about how there's an exodus of people that are leaving Midwest, Chicago, Illinois, that area, also the Northeast are moving. Yet these are the areas where we're showing we've got less and less inventory. And in fact, these are also the areas where the prices are going up still, which is kind of crazy. Let's go back to the map. So out on the West Coast, really the only thing that pops out is Phoenix, where Phoenix has a substantial more inventory, as well as Texas. And that's the Austin area, which they talk about as well. Everything really is in Florida. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, an increased inventory has a negative impact on our pricing, yet our pricing has gone up year over year, just a little bit. Take a look at this. So this is the pricing map for the state of Florida. Again, this is reventure.app. Folks, shameless plug, no matter where you are in the United States, information is your ally. I get nothing for supporting Reventure, but I use it because it gives me insight into what's happening. I encourage you do the same. The link for it is in the description down below, but let's get back to the stats because that's what's important. This is year over year growth in Florida. Now, we've seen some areas like when you get into Tampa, the Tampa area is minus 0.8%. It is a whopping minus 5% in Cape Coral, 2.5% down. Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Miami is up 2.5%. And here's the interesting part. They're up in prices, yet they have more price reductions. Now, that's a very desirable area, as is the Marco Island area. When you're into Central Florida, well, let's take a look. In the Central Florida area, our prices have gone up in the Orlando area, 0.7%. Daytona Beach is down 0.1 or 1.5% down. Jacksonville is down just 0.2. It's probably pretty easy to say that Florida as a whole has stayed pretty flat. We haven't seen these meteoric increases that we had over the last 5 years. In fact, there's 60 and 70% increase in value, and we've stayed flat for an entire year. Well, we got one other topic we want to bring up as well, and that's the inventory level. Let's take a look at that. Same thing, we're going to use Reventure for our support.
Hi, it's Jackie. I would like to ask a favor of you because it would mean the world to George and I. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We put a lot of time and effort into creating these videos for you so you can be educated on the market, and we really would appreciate if you would like and subscribe to our channel. See you soon.
What you're looking at is year over year inventory. That means how many homes are currently on the market. And I'll start with Central Florida because that's where I live. 50% increase. Tampa, Clearwater, 31%. Pompano, remember we just talked about Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, 50% increase. Now, their pricing has gone up a little bit, while Orlando as well, gone up, but it stayed kind of flat. I do remember that we had Daytona Beach was down in pricing by like 0.8, but they're up in inventory less than Orlando. They've dropped in price, but they haven't gone up in inventory as much. Now, there's a big flood of inventory that's coming on the market. When we look at this in a national map, actually, let's take a look at that. On the national map, Florida's inventory has gone up 38.9% year over year. Nevada is the only state higher than that. Sorry, I stand corrected. Same with Maine at 41, Nevada at 39. Folks, we are in the top 3 as far as inventory and inventory going up. That means more homes. But as a whole, when we were just looking at that, inventory is up across the board. One more thing I wanted to bring up for you. I wrote this down. I want to talk about population growth because I think that's going to be relevant for where people are moving to. So look at this real quick. Now, this is a nationwide map, and as it's blue, that means they're losing people. And I like to jump into Illinois because I grew up there in the North Shore of Chicago, down 1.5%. That is actually the top area besides Louisiana, which is 1.8. Florida is up 6.1, Texas 6.2. Now, this is a cycle that's based on census, so it's going a little further back than just 1 year for sure. But what we're seeing is migration away from those areas that we just spoke of, where they don't have these ridiculous price reductions. Remember, we've got more inventory in Orlando or in Florida than we do in almost every other state. But in some of these states, the Northeast, and when I was talking about the Midwest, the Chicago area, their inventory is lower. And their prices are still going up. It's kind of wonky how that's backwards, but still people are leaving, and it's just taxing out the back end of it. Now, the Fed is meeting on the 17th and the 18th of December, and all indications are that they could cut interest rate. This article, Fed could cut interest rates again in the U.S. Inflation barely moves in November. Well, take a look at this, folks. Now, this is the inflation graph. It goes from 2020, where you can see down here at the bottom, it was almost zero. Now, our inflation jumped way back up to over 9% at the peak in 2022, and now we're down to 2.7% inflation. And they're expecting that that's probably going to drop a little bit. We've got consumer optimism is at a long time high at this point. But here's the thing. It's still too expensive. There's still too much debt out there. So this, while is great news that that the inflation is being corrected, and remember, inflation and the Fed's cutting rate are tied to the bonds. They're not tied to short-term lending interest rates, not tied to the bonds. The bonds are what call the interest rates. We've seen them fluctuate against cuts, but the bonds are tied to optimism, and if people are more optimistic about what's going on, we're going to see the bond rates come down, which means inflation comes down. I'm going to forecast that we are going to have a better 2025. Here's some stats for you. 2024 was the lowest year of units sold since 1994, 30 years. Now, in that, I also want you to remember that we have a dramatic increase in the number of people that actually live in the United States over the last 30 years. We've gone up around 50 million people, yet we've sold less homes. That's why it feels so stagnant. There is a ton of pent-up supply and demand. We have a bunch of sellers who want to sell. We've got buyers who are interested in buying. Here is my long-term forecast. I've already said, and there's pie going to be thrown at my face. It looks just like this. If I was wrong, and if I'm not wrong, and I'm right about this, we're going to put pie in Jackie's face. The date is March 1st. I think that we will be in a recession, be a short-lived recession, one cycle only, and we will come out of that very robust. We have got to pull the Band-Aid off. We have a lot of people in the United States who are debt-ridden, who are paying too much. The solution is lower costs. Lower costs have something to do with oil if you haven't figured out what my position is. Well, right now, quite honestly, let's just do this. Let's see if the new administration does what they promise. And if they don't fulfill their promises and do the job right, let's all of us get them the hell out of office. But if they do fulfill their promises and get the job right, let's support them and make America better, because we need it. We need it on the world stage. We need it everywhere. I wear a hat only because it's Sunday, and although I don't have a lot of hair, it looks like crap today, but the hat has something to say. Bad decisions make for good stories. We've made some bad decisions in the past. Hopefully they're good stories and not catastrophes. Going forward, I think that come March, it's going to be a very robust market. We'll start turning the page from this and getting into what is a normal buying and selling season over the summer months. Expect that your values will go up a little bit, nowhere near the 10 or 20%. Great priced homes are going to sell that are great price, great value for the market, and it's a very micro market. If you need advice on what to do, how to sell, what's your market look like, and anywhere in the state of Florida, reach out to Jackie and I. Our contact information is down below. Glad to speak to you about that personally. If you need a great real estate agent anywhere in the country, we've got some amazing partners. We're glad to recommend you to somebody who's highly skilled. Remember, if you're buying, you don't want somebody who sells a lot of homes as your listing specialist working for you when you're buying. It's a different art. It's a different skill set. So let us help you pick the right person. We're glad to do it. More important than anything, though, we stand with you. Jackie and I are here to help. On behalf of myself and Jackie, we just want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. God bless you, because you matter. And that's the only thing that matters. We love you. See you at the beginning of the year. Bye now.